I just had a great idea. What if you could flip your handheld? Let's try it. Flip. Huh, that didn't work very good. Oh, what about this one? Flip. Nope, this one doesn't flip good either. Flip, flip, flip. Oh, why am I even doing this? None of these handhelds can flip worth of nothing. If only there was a retro handheld made to be flipped. Wait, what? The Retroid Pocket Flip? Finally, a handheld that I can flip. Flip. Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted. Fun fact, we spend a year on the toilet in our lifetime. And another fun fact, the Nintendo DS is definitely my most played handheld game system, if not my most played device, like ever. I had a 2-hour commute to college and my DS was like my little friend to keep me company the whole way. I played it for multiple hours every day for a good 3 or 4 years. So why am I telling you about the Nintendo DS during a review of a retro handheld that is not a DS? Well, because one of my favorite things that made the DS an amazing portable system was the fact that the screen flipped up, which was both unique but also very comfortable. And surprisingly, there aren't really many modern handhelds that do the flip thing. This, boys and girls, is the Retroid Pocket Flip. Flip. And as you can see, it has a flip top, so you can keep it shut to protect the screen if you need to shove it in your backpack with your keys or your ninja stars, and you can open it up to get a nice comfortable gaming experience. And you can put it on top of a bunch of bananas to take artsy B-roll. This Retroid Pocket Flip was sent to me by a friend. He bought this and I'm keeping it. Ha ha ha, mine now, sucka. You might be better than me at Capcom vs SNK 2, but I have a purple flip and you don't. So, you know, who's the real dweeb? Me. The whole flip thing is great and all, but this device is more than that. There's lots about it that sets it apart. I listened to a few reviews of this thing, and one of the most common sentiments expressed by reviewers is that they love it, and they say there's something about it that makes them want to grab it. And I can confirm that, yeah, there is something here that makes you want to play with it. And it's hard to put your finger on. First things first, let's take a good look at this thing. It comes in several flavors, including a transparent watermelon flavor. This grape flavor isn't something that I would have chosen, but now that I have my hands on it, I'm so glad that I have this color scheme. It's reminiscent of the old purple GameCube, and it's really grown on me. The actual look of the thing is kind of weird, to be honest. The front control area has lots of empty space, and it has this kind of rounded aesthetic, and these shoulder button humps stick out and add a bit of awkwardness. I won't say that I love the look of it, but it is very comfortable in the hands because of this roundness, and it's not ugly or anything, so I'll give it a pass. The fact that it is a flip-top device means that all the important stuff is protected, so it has pretty good pocket power. A bit bigger and heavier than I like for pocket devices, but it's way more pocketable than the RP3 Plus or any other T618 device. The specs on the Retroid Pocket Flip are more or less the same as the RP3 Plus. We get the Unisoc Tiger T618 chip, and if you don't know, the T stands for TechDweeb, and this 618 stands for subscribe. I'll touch on the performance in a bit. We get 4 GB of LPDDR4 RAM and 128 GB of internal storage with micro SD card expansion. Dual speakers, but they're not front-facing, they're backfiring. And they sound good, but why make them backfiring? It's kind of dumb considering all the empty space that we have on the front. We get a nice big 5,000 milliamp hour battery, which is pretty juicy for a device like this. We also get Wi-Fi 5, Bluetooth 5.0, and for I/O, we have a USB-C hole for charging and data transfer, and also a micro HDMI hole, so you can plug this into a TV or a monitor. And you can of course use Bluetooth controllers to turn this into a complete retro home console and force your kids to play boring retro games with you. The controls on the Flip are really good. The D-pad is a slight departure from the rest of the Retroid family, like the RP3 Plus and the RP2S. A slightly different shape, but it has about the same feel. I'd describe it as firm with a satisfying quiet click. Same thing with the buttons, although I find these a tad on the shallow side, which I suspect is because they had to keep them lower profile for the flipness. flipness. We don't get thumbsticks here, we get sliders. And I've heard lots of people and reviewers cast these in a negative light, which I guess I get, because objectively they aren't as accurate as proper full-size thumbsticks. But I personally love sliders, and I think they are a great compromise to keep this thing low profile. And these are great as far as sliders go. And we get L3 and R3 click. The bumpers and triggers are fine, but when the screen is back, it actually gets a little bit cramped back there. Takes some getting used to. The bumpers are clicky and the triggers are analog, and both feel great. Volume up and down over here, power button, headphone hole, and a micro SD card hole. Overall, very comfortable device to game on. And the buttons remind me of the nerd emoji, so it gets points for that. The screen on this thing is the absolute best part about it. Not just because the screen is good, which it is, it's the same screen that's on the RP3 Plus, and it's very bright and crisp and colorful and beautiful. One of the best quality screens that you can find on a device at this price point. But what makes this screen on the Flip unique is the fact that it flips up. When it's closed, it's protected, and when it's open, the screen is away from your hands and closer to your face at just the right angle. This alone is a game changer, and I suspect that this is one of the main reasons people love the Flip so much. The RP3 Plus is great, but having a screen lower in your field of vision between your hands makes the games feel different compared to having a screen that's higher up, all on its own, where the games themselves are front and center. I'm surprised that more handheld gaming devices haven't done this. The software that we have on here is typical Retroid stuff. They have their own Android build and a setup process and their own front end. I don't personally use the default front end. I made an entire guide explaining how I set up all my Android-based devices, and that's exactly what I did here. And I'll link to that below if you want to know more about that. My front end is Dig, which I love because it makes browsing my games fun. I made a customized purple animated background which matches my device color, so it's all purple all the time. And the games are all organized in nice, easy to browse menus, and I can browse by screenshots, which is great. I love that. And I have RetroArch all configured just the way I like it, so I can get into my games easily, and they're all set up perfect. And when I exit, it automatically saves my spot so I can pick up right where I left off. Again, watch my guide if you want to know how to set this up. One thing that you'll be dealing with here, regardless of which emulators and front ends you use, is the Android system. We have a pretty standard build of Android 11 with a few unique touches. In the drop-down menu, you can turn the fan on and off and change the speed. I leave mine off, by the way. You can change the performance mode so you can balance performance versus battery life, and you can enable the floating slide-out menu. This menu is available in any game, and it gives you some quick options like screenshots, recording, a key tester, and most importantly, a screen mapper. So you can map your physical controls to on-screen functions, which is important for Android games that don't support a controller. And it all works really good, and I like it. The Retroid Pocket Flip is pretty unique, a little bit weird in parts, but definitely not a very common configuration. So before I got this, I had no idea what gaming on it would actually be like. I'll get to the performance in a bit, but just generally, using the device to game is such a satisfying experience. You can just grab this thing, flip it open, and you'll be right where you left off in your game, or you'll be at your front end. And it's a seamless experience, especially when you have it set up the way that I do with Dig. Lots of Android-based emulation devices feel more like phones with controllers attached, but not the Flip. The Flip feels like a proper console where the games are front and center. Because the screen doesn't need to be integrated into the main part of the device, that means that the controller can be bigger and more spacious compared to the RP3 Plus, for instance. The gaming performance is pretty standard T618 stuff. We've seen the performance that we'll get out of this chipset many times, so there won't be any surprises here. All the 8-bit and 16-bit and 32-bit retro systems will play with no problem, and we have the power to use shaders to give our games that CRT look if you're into that sort of thing. This thing will easily handle all the early 3D systems as well, like Nintendo 64, Sega Saturn, PS1, Dreamcast, no problem with any of that. PSP is a treat to play on here. It's basically the only dedicated widescreen emulation system that you can run on here. And we can upscale PSP to the native resolution of our display, and every single PSP game will work great with minimal tinkering. And PSP games look incredible on this screen, and the games are fun as heck, and the T618 chipset can handle quite a bit of GameCube and PS2. You won't get every GameCube and PS2 game, but you'll get quite a bit, maybe like 75% or so of PS2 and GameCube, and you can run lots of the games with 2x resolution with widescreen hacks. I made a GameCube guide for the T618 chipset, and I'll link to that below if you want to know how to get the best performance and which settings to use. Oh, and of course, we get Android games, and you can run a good amount of really high quality Android games on here. And PC streaming. If you have a gaming PC, you can stream your PC games via Steam Link or Moonlight if you're into that sort of thing. I mean, it's a really good one-size-fits-all device, and you get a lot of fun for the price here. The Retroid Pocket Flip can do a ton of stuff, but the best part about it is that intangible quality. The fact that it has a flip screen really sets this thing apart from the rest of the handhelds in this crowded space. I wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did, and even after a few weeks, the fun factor hasn't worn off. I keep grabbing this thing, and the fact that it makes me want to play with it when I have so many other options says a lot about it. It's more expensive than the RP2S, and you don't get a lot of extra performance or anything. So if you're on a tight budget, just go for that thing because it's my favorite budget retro handheld. But if you're looking for something more, something bigger, more luxurious, something with a bigger screen and more spacious, comfortable controls, something unique, then the Flip is a great choice. So I'm going to give the Retroid Pocket Flip a 6 out of 11. But because it's a Flip, we're gonna flip that 6. 9. It's a 9 now. 9 out of 11. We flipped it. And that brings us to the end. The Flip has been out for a while now, and I'm pretty late to the party. I'm glad I finally got one though, and got to share it with you guys. Thank you so much to my generous supporters on Patreon who help make what I do better. Check out the link below if you'd like to join and help support the things that I do. If you like this video, then check out this video, my review of the Retroid Pocket 2S, my current favorite budget Android handheld. And you can go watch it now because we're done. I'm TechDweeb. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.